we thought that that could have happened had we made ourselves available to that much hate. At that point, we had also accumulated a class, and we couldn't really let ourselves do that, and we couldn't understand. But now we clearly understand. Where would you be left had we permitted such a thing?
Well, we just have to walk around in our learn what.
That only to a human who would find fault with us, who was looking for trouble. I mean, who would like to discredit us, would make an issue of that.
I think the explanation you gave me just now, gave us just now about the newsman, we understand, convey that what was mentioned in Revelation was only figurative anyhow, and so that they want to address.
Yes, it may or may not have actually been related. But whether it was or not, in our eyes, it happened to us in that way. But we would have shortchanged our task had we, and at one point we were even considering throwing ourselves in front of that much hatred in order to let that happen. And as the time got right next to it, we said, this is ridiculous. We felt like it would not be right, that it would not be fair to do it, and now we know the reason why. And it certainly wasn't for any human reasons, because we would have gladly shed these vehicles anytime along the way. And it wouldn't have been hard to endure that kind of experience.
I'm sure the news media felt like we were shot down.
That's exactly what they intended to do. They certainly intended to do that. Yes.
Everybody left. That was when everything was released on television about who we were.
That's when all the network commentators had their say about us in 2 segments. We were in Las Vegas.
Right after we left you all, and it came out. Remember, right after we left you in Chicago. You all didn't sit on television? Oh, we had about 6 or 7 minutes.
And we thought it was over after all this big thing at the beginning, and then they came back and did another blurb at the end. Well, no.
Walter Cronkite and another one.
Walter Cronkite was which network?
Okay,
who was ABC?
Not Dan Rather.
No. He followed. Dan Rather followed Walter Cronkite.
Terry Reese. No,
who's that guy who's on the evening news now that kind of...
I don't know, but it was on all 3 networks the same night. The same night. Well, he was nicer to us. He didn't. He presented it more as this is an interesting bit of information, rather than just trying to scoff at it. No, there was 3 males on all 3 networks. Don't remember. We watched.
Terry. This Terry. What's his name? His last name's Terry.
Drinkwater.
He was one that was out at Pagosa Springs or someplace when we were supposed to go. He went out to the field looking for us.
Right. Took a whole crew with
top guys. Didn't fool around with any old peons there,
I had a question about the end of the age thing. It was just in regards to the timing of when the information was brought in. Did you say that was at the point where the previous information had deteriorated so or had served its purpose and the people themselves had gotten so far off track that they needed to be reminded?
Well, it's the time that the next level chooses to go in again and fertilize, bring up, lift up, set the record straight, get people back on the track. but it's also true that it comes at a time when the previous information of their having come previously has deteriorated and been watered down and discolored and mistranslated by the forces of this planet to the point that it hardly has any ear to. We were in a bookstore over here the other day, and we wanted to look at a couple of translations in the New Testament. Wanted to just check out, see, but there were some relatively recent translations, and we said, let's see how they translate this particular sentence in the New Testament that says, and unless you hate your father, mother, sister, because we know that some of them said, unless you love them less, as all these other different things. And so the lady who was showing us the different translations in the bookstore was pushing this particular translation, promoting it. And so we said, okay, well, let's look up this sentence in the translation you're promoting. And she said, see, it says, unless you hate your father, your mother, your sister, she would read it.
Even hate your own life.
And even hate your own life. You cannot be my son. And yet, even though she was saying, see, this is the book you want because it has translated it the way it should be translated, it couldn't dawn on her what it was saying. Because she has been so carefully brainwashed to think that it was not intended for anyone except for the disciples, the apostles, and that it wouldn't certainly be applicable today because they don't have to do that since he died for their sins. All that's been covered in their minds. And you see
that was for his disciples. See, nobody could be Jesus' disciples because he's not here.
It's like T and I ran into a fellow.
All kinds of reasons.
T and I ran into a fellow a long time ago, before we met any of you, in Venice, Los Angeles, and he had a little mission down by the beach, and he was a sweet little guy, and he was trying to do the best he could with his little mission. But we said something about. You realize, of course, that the perfection that you're talking about, that Jesus attained to, you must also attain to. That everything that he did and taught, you must also do and become. And he just became irate and said, well, that's impossible. I'm a sinner, and he did it for me. And so you see how they've been brainwashed to think.
Getting back to something you mentioned about the age, coming of age, and when it, what was it?
He wanted to know about, like, had it deteriorated so.
Okay, people now are crying. Every minister that you listen to on TV, I guess they're still doing it. I haven't seen one for a long time, but the last time we saw something on television where ministers were preaching, they were still talking about Jesus coming. Jesus is coming. People are actually looking for him to come. Now, back in the days of Jesus, they were looking for the Messiah to come before Jesus came. Remember?
They certainly weren't looking for Jesus. His name wasn't even supposed to be Jesus. It was supposed to be Emmanuel.
Right. And back in the days of Israel, they were all crying to the Lord to come and get them out of this bondage. And I think what they do, they wait until, the next level waits until everybody reaches such an intense desire to want the next level to come to. Everybody thinks the world is rotten. Economically, morally, everything in this thing. We've got that. The only hope that's left is that Jesus is coming soon. He's the one that can save us. And so that's the perfect time. And in their desire to get Jesus to come back, of course, that's helping us to get out. That's right. Because and they're pulling. Means it's bringing the age closer to them more quickly. That's right. Because as it builds up force, then of course the next level says now.
Now, T's leaving out 1,000 words, but I hope you can see what she's saying.
Well, it's like that's what, in a sense, you have, you were talking earlier about the way to reach the next level is to sincerely and intensely want to make contact with them. That is like teaching them that lesson. If they could realize that that happened at a time when they were that intense about wanting the information, we can't respond.
Well, but see, your information is going to be very enlightening, and it won't mean anything to them much the first few readings. But as they begin to realize that this is their opportunity, this is what's been given to them to get out of this mess that they all know that they're in, then they will recognize, the ones who are seeking it, will recognize this is the kingdom coming again.
Well, see, they might go to another box.
That's like graduation. See, that's a more update of what graduation is, because you don't graduate from their condition into what you are going to. A more accurate interpretation of graduation for them would to be overcome the ways of this planet and deserve to be taken to for lessons in another box somewhere in the heavens. And they might then start another civilization on this planet.
Or they might
use it as a base, might turn it into something else.
It depends upon
No,
what's
we
around
certainly don't
this
know.
garden at this time.
Well, we might get a glimpse of it in the book when we get back to space.
In other words, they might have a garden, say, a couple of thousand years or a little bit longer. It may be ready for human occupation, and they would need some place close by for a base and to supply that garden. And this place would be a good place for it. But it wouldn't be where, under the circumstances, the way it is now.
They might.
With all the pollution and vibration.
Don't forget, the next level uses this garden in many ways, like cattle mutilations, for example. They probably were taking samples of things to use in the development of animal life on another garden. They could even take some early primitive humans and transplant them where they need early primitive life forms on other places. So they use it in many ways, just like a gardener would use a hothouse. That doesn't mean that everything in the hothouse is going to stay in the hothouse until it all reaches orchid.
It was my understanding one time that transplanting humans to a box was ongoing, was in progress while my class.
See, your class, no, there are people in boxes right now.
Yes, but I mean, are people being taken from this garden to mine, being taken from this garden to another box?
Well,
Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean. Go ahead, excuse me.
well, I was just going to say that nothing changes as far as the boxes go. And land exchanges, I'm sure, are still going on. But
that doesn't mean everything that leaves here, every mind that leaves here, is ready to enter the kingdom of heaven, or would have graduated from this planet. Only the minds that have overcome the vibrations of this planet would be ready to go to a box that would be considered the new graduates of this planet.
And that's what might take place at the beginning of this new age.
see, we thought that
No, we didn't say that.
She was talking about the
next 2,000 years from now.
Or whenever,
The next day.
whatever the ripening point is, however quickly these, should they choose to follow this information that has been left, this information might be so potent, and the next level might play guardian of it so closely that the period could be very short. Do you follow what we're saying? They could let. That sounds like wishful thinking, because the world looks so rotten that you can't imagine that they would respond in any positive nature to it. But all that could change overnight. Let's say that 5,000 people saw you leave, or saw a spacecraft left, and then a few months later connected it with it took you, and then looked at what you had to say and knew that you actually left. All this rottenness in this world could change very, very quickly. Can you see that? Well, that is wishful thinking, but it could. It could change very, very quickly. They would have to work very, very hard and very, very fast then to overcome this world. But theoretically, if they did take that experience and let it stimulate them to choose themselves to overcome, then all those that had overcome, that at the time it took them to do it, would be ready for a box, would be considered graduates of planet Earth. Can you follow that?
Well, you said earlier that one of the surefire ways that the humans would know this information isn't in the Bible. Significant, like they did with Jesus' teaching. When they saw Jesus put on the cross and then saw him resurrected, the disciples knew that was their proof. And if that kind of proof is required in human reason, there's going to have to be something spectacular shown to them for them to make the connection.
Well, the funny thing is, not many saw him. Very few saw him. And yet, and very few saw him leave in a cloud of light after 40 days after his resurrection. And yet, so the next level must have given a lot of help to the truth seekers at the beginning of that age to realize that the records that were left were, in fact, their key to changing things around, to heading for goodness again. Humans can always accept their Messiah a lot better after he's gone. That's just the way they're built. And after something is history, and they can read about it, then they're inspired by it. But when it's happening before their eyes, they just don't know how to handle it. Therefore, very few experience it. And that may be the case now. And it may not be. It depends upon how far they've developed. Whether the next level thinks it would serve a purpose to let many see it, or the next level may not let but 2 or 3 see it. And or may leave certain little clues that would cause this information to come out, and then nurture that information from a distance to see that it made a splash. One reason that information made splash in Jesus' time is because of all the rumors that followed. This guy actually hung on a cross dead, and they said the stone was right. He left. He got up and he was in his body. He left. There were earthquakes at that very time. In other words, all those rumors were going so that by the time the books were written and coming out, people were looking for it because they felt like their world was just as rotten to them as this world was. Their world is rotten.
Part of the information includes the word your life. So we left everything if we wrote something like that, would it be right for them to do that, like we like if they decided to leave and to go like this?
Well, no, you're not telling them. You're not writing and saying. You're telling them what happened to you. You're telling them what you have to overcome. And if they are looking to the God in the heavens, He's going to be close to them as they choose to do what they choose to do with this information.
You can tell them what you did.
Yes.
And what you had to go through, and then if they choose to do this, that's their choice. But you don't tell them, well, number one, you have to walk out your life, give everything away, and all that. If we had known what we knew shortly after, when we were holding meetings, we'd tell you to bring all your possessions with you. So we could pay for the meetings.
But we noticed many preachers were going to kick us out of their door and things that we had to deal with during that time of tribulation.
So that spiritual trip is out. So bring all your belongings with you and get enough money for gas. One thing I wanted to say to Lona's question about the boxes. When we used to think that you all were graduates, remember taking a final exam, but we found out differently that you did not come from a box, that you are members of the Newton. So that is, this is a clarification. You know what I'm saying? Because you mentioned something, if I understood you correctly, like you all final examiners like you or something.
See, the word final exam kind of meant at that time that if you passed this test, then you would be members of the next level, which isn't accurate. Because we're saying that you had graduated from Gardens previously, passed tests to be newcomers into the Kingdom of Heaven, and were members in the Kingdom of Heaven, and then were sent on a task that permitted you to gain a lot of strength and do the next levels and tasks as well, and do some work for them as well. Serving this planet, bringing vehicles for them to...
But you did graduate from a box at one time.
Yes, that's right.
But this isn't what you're doing.
You sure did.
We'll make the majority say, when humans read this, they decide this is what they want to follow and try to make changes in their lives. They're walking for us. When we heard the news that we had to do this British British like this, it was a more traumatic event for us to have it happen abruptly because we were already in the next level and we could handle it anyway. Whereas with the humans, they might have a more gradual transition.
Don't know. You can't know that because you don't know how the next level will help them if they truly seek through this information. Jesus prophesied a little bit when he left because he said, when I leave, then the truth will come to you. And I don't know how accurate the accounts are, but in Acts, like when after he left, then they were all sitting together. He told them on Passover to all sit together after he left. And when they were there, it was like tongues of fire entered the room and whirled around the room and got them all so excited they didn't know what in the world they were doing. And they all started babbling in foreign languages and everything and not knowing what they were experiencing. And this is probably just the way their vehicles reacted to some strong energy that the next level was sending them at that time. Now, we're in a sense prophesying because we're saying that the next level will send them special nurturing help to follow up your task. And it's the same thing that he told them. He said, after I leave, that help will be sent to you, so get ready for it.
Won't be coming in tongues, speaking in tongues. Remember,
actually, we don't think that's what was happening. It was a mistranslation. Their vehicles reacted, so it's just like they went crazy. And they could have spoken in the tongue of previous incarnations. You don't know. That's more than likely what was happening. Their computers were babbling off in languages they knew in previous incarnations, but they were so impressed by it. They thought, oh boy, let's go over there and do it again.
Some people are speaking in tongues in churches, but didn't we talk last evening about this? How Moses, how the Lord appointed some people, tribes from the different tribes to help him. And remember how we said that when the Lord gave those men authority, that they began to prophesy? Remember?
Yes.
That's the same thing that happened to them.
Same.
It's, they called it the Holy Spirit. All it was just giving them a bunch of energy and a lot of knowledge.
Next level information was coming, and their vehicles were going berserk while it was absorbing it.
the day that we got the information from you all about this book, which had to come in pretty strong for us to even agree that you all could write a book. It almost sent us like a chicken with a check cut off popping
The
around.
energy was so extreme. We were just restless and
We could have climbed the wall. I mean, it was just...
it lasted through the night last night. I couldn't rest anymore. It was too intense. Couldn't rest. I believe it was in this. I believe it was in this crash because I couldn't rest.
Knowledge has just been coming like
I was writing on my pad without even being able to see what I was writing, and it looked like hand scratching. And it was just more clarification of this information we shared.
How about when you found out we were coming next week?
It was the same experience.
it wasn't as strong because we could accept it.
The energy didn't excite us as much.
In other words, it didn't affect our vehicle because, but for you all to have to write something, you know, we never thought we'd ever have to write anything.
Or have to leave a record. We didn't think we'd have to.
In fact, the humans deserved it, you know. But so, in a sense, they had to push through that prejudice.
The degree of energy that had to be sent in order for us to accept this information is what excited us so.
That same principle basically like when we stood with you earlier on.
We didn't babble in tongues.
You didn't babble in tongues, but
That's what you felt. That's right. And you would feel something because the next level's presence was so strong in helping us with you that it just would send you so filled with energy you didn't know what was happening.
when you have finally realized what a lesson it is.
That's what you call holy stuff.
Why don't you just say our teachers? What is that?
Yes, that's right.
Our
That's a
teachers.
good question.
It's obvious. It's so obvious.
See, it wouldn't hurt someplace in it to mention who were at times called T and Doe and P. Yes, but you could make reference to that like once, and then from there on call them teachers. Good point.
If we came in to this vehicle that we want to get on,
Now wait a minute, we just gave that information this last day or two. I don't know if it got to this craft, but we sent it back to the other craft, that nothing is to go into the book related as to when your mind might have its vehicle. Because we do not know. We are very aware of the intensity of the awakening process that happened a few years ago, like we said, toward the end of the 60s. And for a period we suspected that might have even been when the minds were coming in stronger. But we don't know when the minds entered this vehicle. And if we led you to believe that that's because of something we said, and we could have easily led you to believe, because I think I said that your minds might have even entered during that time. But I said to Mike because we were still very uncertain, and the more we have pondered over it, the more we don't know that we had any right to say that. We don't know when your minds entered these vehicle.
I feel like what you've got to realize is that mind wasn't important to your vehicle. In other words, I feel like my mind was with this vehicle from the very beginning.
I think
But
that
it
would be...
would come and go. It wouldn't stay with it all the time. And I don't mean that it would come into
It was
but
still
I mean
the
it
life
could
force that
contact
it
with
drew upon to stay alive.
And actually,
Is that not true? Your mind was still the life force that the vehicle drew upon to stay alive.
in other words, there wasn't any little room
That was shut
that
down.
was shut down. But let's say that we find out that there was. Doesn't make a bit of
Because we
difference.
don't know that this is the fact.
Because it belongs, that vehicle belongs to the next level, and they have every right to it.
Now, this is an important point, and I think we ought to repeat it, because we don't know whether, in fact, what T just said sounds more like it might be the case, but we don't know. We won't know until it's either to be clarified later, or we'll know when we return. But like T said, that she felt like off and home, her mind was with her vehicle from its beginning. And if there was a young mind that was giving it, sustaining its life during that time until their mind began to waken for it, even if that young mind in the process was aborted, nothing has been lost. That young mind would just be free of the trauma that was ahead and would be headed for a vehicle more to compatibility with its own development.
Now, see, the next level has that power to do that. The lower forces do that. What the Ekankar avatar, or whatever they call it. And he left his father, and then they appointed another avatar. And
The leader of Ekankar.
The leader of Ekankar. And Paul Twitchell took over the body of this Gross, whatever it's called.
Goss. Darwin
Now,
Goss.
Now, it is so obvious, Paul Twitchell, his face has changed. This Goss divorced his wife and married Paul Twitchell's wife,
The widow
the widow of Paul Twitchell. And the facial expressions
Has
have
become
become
just
just
like-
like Paul Twitchell.
Now, the question is, where did the mind, where was the mind that came into Paul Twitchell?
Huh?
The question to me always is, who was the mind that was in Twitchell? Who was the mind that took over Twitchell? You see? Because he caused Twitchell to look like he looked like, and caused Goss to look like he looked like. In other words, it has to be a servant of you-know-who, who has learned the mastery of leaving bodies and entering others in order to keep his cause going. His
Now,
lesson going.
this little mind in Goss is down here in the pit of his stomach saying, what about me? What do I do now? I have to stay down here in my
Or has
stomach
been
all day?
aborted. Or has,
I don't think
You don't
they
think it
have
has
that
been
power to do it.
don't think
I
they
think
do?
it's the lower forces that do it. They are practicing techniques. The next level is the only one
That would know how to plant it
know how to
properly.
do it right.
Now this, you're getting some information from that's new and very advanced right this moment.
Even if the mind, well, whether the mind was aborted or not, if there were one that were present, I hope I can answer this question without sounding like I'm really concerned. I'm just wanting to understand.
You're talking about in your life?
Yeah, say there was a mind associated with this vehicle, and then my mind moved in later on.
Or was in and out, and then moved in.
Right.
Okay.
That possibly that little mind grew at an accelerated pace for the time that I had an association with the vehicle, and maybe haven't moved in completely. And it could help that mind to grow in the right direction.
Yes, it's always
For the good.
compensated.
Yeah.
The next level sees to it that it's compensated. And but
Nothing is lost, something's gained.
Right.
But what T was making was the point is that the individuals of this planet who participate in that kind of body-to-body thing don't know how to complete the process in the proper way. And like she was saying, this mind that was in Twitchell and then in Goss was shoving those poor little minds that were there into a back room somewhere and almost screaming for help because they had become so dominant. Now, isn't that...
Either they're put into the astral because they die, but I don't believe so. I think they stay with the vehicle if they're assigned to it. But we'll know that one day.
That'll be.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you were
I
saying.
said, when I was thinking out loud, that either they're shoved into the astral, but I don't believe so.
Well,
Because
what
when people die, they go into the astral.
What I thought was happening was that the mind from Lucifer, or from one of his helpers, that was working through them, was one that came and went, like he comes and goes from these, and his frequency there depended upon how much usefulness he had of that vehicle to promote his cause. And that when he departed, then it was the poor mind, all that was left was the poor mind that was there before he came. But I think you're right, because it doesn't jive as well in those instances as it would for them to take it over. See, what you have done is take it over. What they were doing when they're promoting a cause to that degree is take it over. Can you see? They're not taking yours over. They would. The only way they could take yours over is to try to win you to be 100% on their side. But it still wouldn't be their taking over. It would be that they have won you. Can you see the parallel there? Or am I confusing you?
You're talking about the lower forces.
Yes.
There was a lower force strong enough to move into this vehicle to try to take it over.
Not compared
No,
to the next
no,
level.
not compared to you.
All they can do is just influence you. Or try to influence you.
Well, if a little mind, let's say there was a little mind in this vehicle that was moved out whenever I came in, that mind, I'm sure that was considered as the next level, as they would have explained to that little mind at a level they could understand that they needed to use this vehicle for a special purpose.
Well, it may not even
They
know
just
what
take it
happened
out.
to it. They would just remove it and plant it
They have
in
no
another
clue.
vehicle that would even be more to its benefit than what it had.
What I was trying
Got
to
some little tweezers to just kind of pick it out. They wouldn't need to explain to it.
Okay, well, at
It
any
would
rate,
just be like putting it asleep, like giving it a little ether, and it wakes up over here.
at any rate, it would be doing a service,
Huh?
would it not? It would be doing
Oh,
a
yes,
service.
yes, it's doing it a service.
Because
I
we've
think-
had experience. We've had experience with however long you stayed in the body.
I think we better call it out.
I think we've covered it enough, and if there are more questions that individuals have in regards to the book, well, in regard to the book, then do like we do, like we said to do as far as questions on meditation, just send your questions to a Satellite 3 person, and you all put them all on one sheet of paper, send them up here with the next group, and then we'll answer them for you. Okay?
Okay. Hey, you all, we thought we had signed off, but now we're back on because Alodi has pulled out his questions that came from the crowd.
Out here? Okay, turn the tapes up here also. It's on tape so everybody can hear it.
Yeah, next is up. Hey. Of course, they won't listen to this until after the next group's already left.
What else? What the next group be down when we get back?
Yes, they will, so you all will have to see to it.
Make sure they're getting used one.
Okay. Well, go ahead with your questions while the
I've
tape
got a
is rolling.
Okay.
No.
The procedures? Okay. So it's
Why,
not-
what are they trying to do, look at the top of their head?
Some people are trying to focus up here
With their eyes?
with their eyes.
Well,
Look with your head.
That's
Right.
right.
Close
A lot of
your eyes.
strain on the eyes.
Close your eyes. Don't try to look up there. Now, that's your booger. Because your booger teaches looking at your third eye. See, your boogers kept trying to come in saying, I thought you said we're supposed to look here. We're supposed to concentrate here. Your booger learns the technique of closing your eyes and looking with your eyes at that point on your head. And we did not teach you that. Don't do that.
You concentrate. Remember we said concentrate.
I'm just showing you how these boogers slip in. Just like, what shall I do now? Leave my body?
All right, that is correct. Nobody looks.
When I asked our Cody about it, he said he wasn't consciously doing anything. He just, the way it just happened.
Well, your eyes always roll back when you go to sleep, but you don't do it. In other words, when you close your eyes automatically go in the back of your head, the pupils, right? Or wherever it goes.
Well, but the pupils goes, but the eyes don't roll
No,
back.
the eyes don't roll. In other words, you don't try to look up with your eyes closed. You close your eyes and concentrate. You direct your thought to the top of your head. Right?
That's right. That's right. Your eyes remain just like they are when you just close your eyes, as if you were
And
praying.
your eyelids don't flutter trying to keep closed.
No, I'm going to start watching each other now, see if their eyes roll back. And he didn't mean that their eyes roll back when they go to sleep. Forget that.
Well, the pupils go somewhere.
One more question. Is it all right to picture Teen Dog during... Oh, this is from St. Audie. Is it all right to picture Teen Dog during her meditations with the older members she knows? We thought we already answered this question, but we thought we'd try it again.
Say again?
Is it all right to picture Teen Dog during your meditations with their older members she knows? In other words, when they picture an older member...
I don't think we've given that instruction to picture Teen Dog during the
No,
meditation.
we
Imagine yourself for the chief, and then later on, another meditation.
It's the
Imagine
chief.
yourself in the presence of an older member.
No features.
We said, imagine yourself at the chief, at the foot of
In
the
the
chief.
presence of the chief.
And you don't have to imagine what he looks like. You just think it. You think you're at the feet of the chief. At the chief.
It's just psychologically impress upon you what you would feel like in the presence of someone who's in the next level vehicle and has been in the next level that long.
Sure. So for she, and there's another meditation.
Go bananas, you're calm, I prepared myself to remain relaxed and not be afraid of what he does. That way.
She was just misled by the little older member in another meditation.
Okay.
I want to know what meditation you're talking about.
This is the one that talks about being in the presence of an older member, feeling what he feels, and
No, it's the one about entering the spacecraft.
emanating what he emanates, hoping that he's pleased with your efforts to
That's
raise
the chief, I thought.
No, that's another one.
And one of
Very
the
first relaxation,
no, it's the second
No, it's a separate
one
one.
of the lists we got.
told you what to practice, relaxation, happiness meditation, stopping time, and space consciousness, imagining yourself in the presence of an older member, being on a spacecraft, etc.
Yeah.
Gave a brief, concise list of things you would do.
Okay. But you don't have to picture what their face would look like or how fat they are. It's just it's being in the presence of someone who is a member of the next level in a next level vehicle.
In other words, it's like we said when you pray, when humans after we leave, they pray. They direct their thoughts to the way the distant ones in the heavens, the Lord of the heavens. And but they don't have to sit there and try to picture what he looks like or what they look like. You see what we're saying? In a sense, if you direct your thoughts to a spacecraft, you don't want to walk around and say, let's see, what does that spacecraft look like? Try to imagine what it looks like. What you're doing is you're just projecting or trying to imagine yourself being there, but you don't imagine what it looks like. You don't imagine what the chief looks like or the older member looks like. It's like you are feeling. You're tapping a feeling. You see what we're saying? Maybe that'll help because it isn't. We don't want you to picture somebody. You might picture somebody like E.T. And they aren't monsters like that.
One very functional vehicle.
The third question is, this is from Gordon Odie. What is the best approach to meditation on a tooth that has a large cavity and lots of fillings? The tooth is not given enough difficulty to warrant a dentist. He's wondering if he can cure the cavity.
There's no way to add something to something that's already gone. It's like
What-
you
what-
had,
what
like
you
you
do-
trying to imagine my eye coming back.
No, but what he can do is tell his vehicle and the cells in that area and the nerves in that area that they are going to stop reacting
Decay.
to exposure. They're going to stop decay and stop pain and stop that infection setting. Now that kind of imagery he can do.
But he can't feel the cavity. However, some people say that you can.
Well, I think I know if you can't feel like that. Okay. The fourth question is, have you, this is from Jamodi, is it possible to heal a severed tendon in a finger through medication?
Tendon?
Yes.
Well, theoretically it is,
Tiny
but what's the
tendon.
purpose? Yeah, does it not function? The
I
finger
think you
doesn't
could
function?
try anything.
Wouldn't hurt. If you because like T said, even the tooth situation, theoretically, if your vehicle, if its systems were healthy enough, and you did your imagery strong enough over a period of time, you could rebuild some structure there over a period of time. And the same thing, you could work on your tendon of your finger to heal. And get right down there and say, now, that part that's severed, those cells are going to reach out and work themselves to the point of coming back together again and adhering. And my vehicle's going to send energy enough to that area to strengthen that tendon so that it can reach out and start that process of adhering again and healing. And if you think it's worth it to spend that much energy on it, I don't know. It depends on how healthy the rest of your vehicle is, how much attention you need to go in other places. What else?
Last question is from our lady. The relaxation meditation says that light will relax the body and heal anything that's not perfect. Updated information, Carabiner, Colleen, Kakuri, said that the light only relaxes and does not heal. So how would one have it?
They said you do not use it to heal.
Do
In
not
other words,
use
you
the
don't-
light exercise as a healing exercise. There was still nothing wrong with
Oh, I see.
in the relaxation. There was nothing wrong with the wording of the relaxation exercise.
Oh, okay.
But we're saying you don't use that exercise when we have given you some that are so much more appropriate for healing purposes.
Some were thinking that you were to take the light and direct it to the certain parts of your body that you wanted to heal to. And that's not what you use.
We've given you other exercises for that.
Okay. So
The light exercise is a relaxing exercise.
Okay.
But it's nitpicking to think, well, then why is that word in there in the meditation?
So I wonder if
Healing.
it had been changed, if the instruction had changed. I understand what you're saying.
Okay, then you can clarify.
You're saying that when your body is relaxed, it is in essence being healed just by being
Well, it's
relaxed.
prepared for the process. And the systems can certainly begin to function better when it is relaxed. It's receptive to healing process.
Okay.
Is that it?